everybody, this is Mike the Gamer Guy, and welcome to the impromptu 5th installment of the Famicom Bootleg Game Extravaganza series. And today we're looking at a care package of sorts that was sent to me by Glitter Jugend, which is no doubt a name that you might be familiar with if you've been watching my videos. His name shows up in the comments a lot. And he usually has interesting stuff to say, and he sent me quite a few games, and we're going to be looking at these in the future, but for now I just want to do a quick rundown of what was contained in the package, because it's really great, and I appreciate what he's done here. So we'll begin off with, I guess, this little handful here, and we'll just work our way through everything. And then in later videos I will definitely be covering these in much greater detail because it's really cool. The first one is a YZine title. I don't know what the Chinese name is right off the top of my head, but it translates to God Gives Directions, I believe. It's a like a side-scrolling shooter platform type game based on Wizard of Oz. Let me see if I can get a zoom in there. And it is very interesting. I've only played a couple minutes of this, but right away I noticed that it's actually surprisingly highly produced, even for what I would sort of expect from YZine. And it uses graphics from Panic Restaurant, which I found kind of amusing, just recolored. So this is one that I'll definitely want to cover pretty soon. I think I actually used a picture of this in my Link to the Past review. So it's been on my mind for a while, but I'm glad I actually have a copy so we can look at that. Next we have 9 Glowden dragons. I think they were trying to go for golden, but it's Glowden. Or Glowden has some meaning in Chinese, I'm not entirely sure. But this is a multi-cart featuring 9 games on it. And I think they come from multiple different developers. I know Asder's on here, and I think there might be some YZine stuff. I haven't explored this all the way, but I know there's some fighting games, there's some side-scrolling beat-em-up games, a platformer. It's pretty eclectic, honestly, and they all have the theme of Chinese mythology, from what I can tell. So this is another pretty neat one, and this is going to probably take a little while to do, since I'll either devote an entire episode just going through all 9 of them, or break them up, because they are, as far as I can tell, sort of full-length type games. Next up, now this is one that I wasn't expecting. Either he told me about this and I forgot, or he just put it in there. This is Pinocchio's Recovery, I think is what it's called. And this is a YZine RPG, which this is, I'm just going off script here. I think that the artwork might come from Berserk. I feel like that's where I've seen that before. That's a manga called Berserk. But this is an RPG starring Pinocchio, and I haven't figured it out at all yet, but it is interesting, and I have some, I got some interesting first impressions from it, let's say that. The graphics, the character animations are interesting. Here's another one of huge interest. This is Commandos, which is apparently quite a rare game. It's another YZine game, and this was described to me as sort of like Thief, the PC game, in sort of an 8-bit form. And I played a little bit of it. I need just a little bit more time to get used to it, I think, but I am intrigued by what this game attempts to do, and it looks like there's plenty of maps to go through. Sort of a Metal Gear thing, so another one I'll definitely be looking at. A lot of interesting YZine stuff was sent. So maybe there'll be a YZine super episode, something like that. Next, yeah, let's take a look at these. Next up I have some Shenzhen Nanjing games, and there's one in particular that is of interest to the channel because it completes the unholy triforce, I suppose, of bootleg Zelda games. Even though the games are usually are pretty decent, but here we have Legend of Zelda Minish Cap, and in actuality this is, to my surprise, actually Phantom Hourglass, which is the title screen hack of Minish Cap. They're both the same game, so that's good, but I played a little bit of this, and it has Pokemon music, which is amazing, and it looks really nice. I love the graphical style, worlds better than Nice Code's Fenyin Dao, that was also published by Shenzhen Nanjing. This one has the Shenzhen Nanjing stamp on it, and it is very reminiscent of their other RPGs, but I'm very intrigued early into this one, and it's one that I'm going to be playing a lot more of, honestly. And after the next review is finished, maybe that will be my next one, but I guess that depends on how the voting goes. Another Shenzhen Nanjing one is The Hacker, And I should mention, if you've seen my previous videos, usually their cartridges look... Do I have one on hand right now? I guess not. But they're like sort of orangish yellow. These are later versions, apparently, that were like sort of late into Shenzhen Nanjin's lifespan. I guess they're still around, right? But this is late Shenzhen Nanjin re-release, and they use these sort of cheaper black shells, but the PCBs are apparently the same. This is another nice code game that they published, and it looks like it got a crack in it at some point, but the cartridge is still sturdy, so that's good. I'll just have to be careful with that one. But I played a little bit of it, expecting to hate it, and honestly, I thought it wasn't all that bad. It's not great, but it's one of the few nice code games that actually controls decently and kind of plays like a real game. Then we have this one, which was just too amazing to pass up. This is World of Warcraft. Pretty impressive graphically, and it seems to be one of their more well-balanced RPGs because they sort of have a high difficulty rate to them, but this one seems to be not so bad. So that'll be fun to take a look at, and the opening's pretty neat, and the graphics especially are pretty impressive. Very large drawn sprites. I think it's the same engine as like all their other RPGs, but maybe balanced a little bit better. Then we have Diablo 2, which is pretty awesome, and seems to be most reminiscent of Chrono Trigger from what I've seen so far, but it doesn't have the timed battle mechanic. I should mention, even though these all use essentially the same engine, they do have interesting slight differences to them that make them worthy of discussion. Depending on what I decide, these might be grouped in to one video, like a super video. For a while now I've been thinking about doing like longer 30-minute mega reviews where I can just talk about a whole group of games that won't really work spread out. Alright, moving on. I guess I'll show these real quick. I don't know what to do with these in some sense because they're so cool, but at least one of these I want to play, so I don't know. I think I'm just going to keep them sealed. But look, sealed games! This is the most incredible thing. Here we have Doraemon, which is a hack of Somari that is like completely revamped. When I made my Somari video, I mentioned this, but I didn't know how different it was, how overhauled Wising made this game. So this is something definitely worthy of a revisit, and it might be in that Somari Mega episode that I also am thinking about doing. And then we have, what's this called? Happy Beaky 3 World Warrior or something like that. This is an Earthworm Jim clone starring a original character from what I can tell, and it seems pretty interesting, but they're both sealed, and I don't want to... It's just so nice. So I think I'm going to just try and track down a loose cartridge of this at some point, and then we'll play it that way, because this is really amazing. I don't think I really knew that they were sealed. I knew they were complete in box, so that was a genuinely cool surprise. Next up we have some sort of miscellaneous carts. This is Pokemon Yellow. It's a hack of Felix the Cat. In fact, I think it says Pokemon 2000 on the title screen. So it's just a simple graphics hack. There's quite a few of these. I think there's one of Little Nemo and some other ones. And then of course there's an actual Shenzhen Nanjin backport of Pokemon Yellow. So yeah, pretty interesting, a fun game from what I can tell. But a simple graphics hack with a kind of a ridiculous Pikachu sprite. Koni's Fatal Fury 3. This is a pretty impressive opening sequence and a weird pre-opening sequence screen where it says something like, if screen is error, press A. I didn't know what that was about, but then the game started playing. The opening sequence is pretty cool. The game itself is what I would expect from a Famicom fighter, more or less. Nothing too amazing on that front. I should note that I was playing all these games on the AVS and they all worked perfectly except for the next one, which is, this is the first cart of this variety that I have. It's the Pokemon 4-in-1 that you might have heard of in the past. It's got Pika Click, Pac-Man, Pika Slot, and Pika Dance. From the top to the bottom, Pika Click is sort of a puzzle game, Pac-Man is Pac-Man, Pika Slot is a slot machine with Pokemon characters. It's one of the nicer looking ones. And then Pika Dance is Dance Dance Revolution with a D-pad, which of course isn't as interesting, but it's got this wavy design which seems to be native to Russia, and this sort of, the fact that there's Russian text on the back sort of corroborates that. But this one would not work on the AVS. It did work on my NOAC Famiclone, and It's nothing necessarily to write home about, but it is interesting for being a from the ground up Pokemon bootleg. So that's pretty interesting, and that will get its own video, I imagine. I don't know all that I'll say about it. It's sort of light on content. Next up we have a Russian puzzle game. This is apparently made by somebody who's made a few of these Russian unlicensed puzzle games, and it's pretty interesting. I thought this was going to be a Sokoban clone, but actually it was sort of a Scrabble thing and a puzzle, number puzzle, slider puzzle thing. Pretty interesting. I would like to actually do a video about all this guy's work, and unfortunately his name's not coming to my head right now, and I looked this up, but now I can't remember it. But pretty good, fairly interesting stuff, and I'd like to take a look at more of his work, because apparently he's rather interesting. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, which is, ironically enough, a hack of Somari to replace Mario with Sonic. This starts at the Spring Yard Zone, and seems to be slightly easier. The controls feel a little bit better, and I think they removed some of the more annoying enemies, because I was able to get quite a deal farther in this game than I was in Somari, so that's a good thing. And I just like having Sonic in that game, because it feels more pure, strangely enough, even though it's kind of the opposite in this situation. Then we have a loose copy of Doraemon, which I just wanted because I thought it'd be interesting. And I mean, I don't know if this is a Wyzine copy of it, or what exactly, because it has this like stripe up here, and I don't really see their logo on the cartridge, but I don't know with Wyzine how exactly they go about branding their games. They seem to do it about a million different ways, but it is a good game, and I'm glad I got this since the other one's sealed. I can actually play this one. Then we have F-15 City War. This is a weird one. You sort of are going down a street and things zoom in towards you. It doesn't work very well, but it's interesting. I might throw this one and like the Pokemon game and a few of the other ones in like a pile, and we'll do like these shorter games, because it's kind of light on content from what I can tell, and that's the same way with the Pokemon one. So they're worthy of discussion, but devoting a whole video to it might be a little bit much. Okay, I'll just move on to the next one. This one is really cool. I kind of love this cartridge. This is a 2-in-1 featuring Super Earthworm Jim 3, which is an incredible bootleg of, I think, Earthworm Jim 2. And then Super Turtles 3, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which is by far my favorite Ninja Turtles game on the NES or Famicom. And luckily, it's actually a working version of it. As I understand it, a lot of the bootlegs that came out back in the day had broken versions of Turtles 3 that had to do with like screwing with the copyright information that Konami had put on the title screen. You could like kind of make it so the game doesn't work, but this one works perfectly, and Earthworm Jim seems like a lot of fun too. So this one might get its own video just because I love this cartridge so much. This might be one of my favorites, just in terms of the games on it. Just two very high quality games. And lastly, a huge score. This is Toy Story 3, it says, but it's really just Toy Story, because there's only one to my knowledge on the Famicom. And this is an incredibly hard to find game. I'm very lucky to have come across it like this, and I played a little bit of it, and it apparently gets a bad rap, but I'm very impressed so far. And it's very cool graphically, and I think even the gameplay isn't half bad. So this one will definitely be getting its own video, and I can't wait to talk more about all of this stuff. So where does that leave us, I guess, as we wrap up this video? Well, a lot of neat stuff is happening with the channel, I can say that for sure. We still need to make videos about the last group of stuff I got, and we might get even more. Who knows what the future will bring, but there's so many cool things here, and I can't wait to discuss them all with you guys in the future. And maybe we'll just sit down one day and just look at all this stuff in like a long format, and then go back later and do individual reviews. I'll have to see, but I definitely wanted to share this with you guys because it's so cool. Alright, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to my Patreons. Thanks again to Glitter Jugend for sending this stuff in. I really appreciate it, and it's just Are you okay?
Yeah.
Tom's here. You want to say hi, Tom?
Hi.
I don't know. He was doing something weird with his hand.
Oh, I was gonna turn off the camera for you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well then, see you guys later.